Now I see tweets from all areas on my feed based on the activity of my followers, and one tweet that caught my eye was this tweet from a user that goes by the name Black Shikamaru. Now I wasn't tagged on the tweet, but based on the first line of the tweet I instantly knew Black Shikamaru was referring to my recent video. In communication, context is everything, and without context, words lose their actual meaning, and by the time I saw the amount of likes and retweets his tweet was getting, I had to open up his page and check him out. I saw a YouTube link, clicked it, and I see the name Shawn Cee that many of my subscribers have talked about in my comment section. Now let's read out his tweet and bring some context to prove that people will say anything to discredit Eminem, including Black Shikamaru, that tried to mislead his followers on Twitter. It's no wonder he didn't provide the link to the video he was talking about, as he would have been called out. It's sad to see an independent creator behaving like mainstream journalists in trying to engineer a particular narrative rather than understand context. Now he tweets, "I just saw a clip of some dude saying Detroit wouldn't be heavily regarded without Eminem, and it proceeds to name a few artists that are either dead, way past their prime, or relatively unknown internationally, which was the point I was trying to make in my previous video. Now I'll be quoting what I said in my previous video, and you'll see how Shikamaru completely missed the point in his quest to discredit Eminem. Now first of all, this is what I said in my previous video, and right after criticizing the Detroit rapper that mentions Eminem's name for clout, I added, and I'm quoting myself here referring to the rapper, "He's from Detroit, a city that Eminem put on the map in hip-hop." I then expanded on how Detroit was the #1 city at one point, where 3/4 of all automobiles in the world were produced in Detroit, to show you how great of a city it once was. And I ended that segment in the video with this, another quote. "These days, Eminem comes to mind first for music fans when you mention Detroit across the globe." Notice the keywords to take out of my quote. The first is Eminem put Detroit on the map in hip-hop. More keywords, these days, which means recently. And I follow that up with Eminem comes to mind first when you mention Detroit across, I repeat, across the globe. Now, across the globe means worldwide, internationally, and certainly not just the United States. Now, if you've been following Where Did I Lie or put out false information about Eminem and Detroit internationally. Remember, I even spoke about how Detroit was one of the greatest cities in the world in the past, but recently, as in the past few years, Eminem comes to mind across the globe when you mention Detroit. Now let's talk about the facts for a second. All the artists he mentioned passed their primes decades ago, some even decades before Eminem released the Slim Shady LP, and in the past 20 years, Eminem is not only the biggest artist to come out of Detroit, but the biggest to come out of the United States and the world in general, based on estimated global sales of Eminem. So the artist of the 21st century that's always representing Detroit in his music, an artist that is internationally known more than any rapper that have come before and after him based on the fact, and more than any artist of the 21st century, is somehow not responsible for putting Detroit out there across the globe recently, according to Shikamaru that hates facts. This is the problem with those that don't like Eminem. They go out of their way to prove him wrong and they still fall short. And for my international viewers that don't live in the United States, how many of you guys knew Stevie Wonder was from Detroit? Diana Ross, Anita Baker, Danny Brown? Be honest, did you guys know? Well, based on the replies under his tweets, many didn't know, but as soon as you ask an international fan where Eminem is from, immediately you hear Detroit. That there is the difference, since Eminem always gives a shout out to Detroit in his music. Check out this reply. If he meant globally, which is what I meant, and on an international level is 100% right. Now, facts won't change regardless of how you feel, Black Shikamaru, as your reply to this tweet was filled with your feelings rather than a counter-argument with facts to say I'm wrong. Detroit as a city still isn't acknowledged internationally. Eminem is. It really doesn't mean anything to Detroit that people in India know Eminem is from there if they don't know what goes on there. Now, this is all about how you feel and doesn't make the original point wrong. My video wasn't about people knowing what goes on in Detroit. That's a topic for another day, a nice way to move the goalpost. But the fact remains, Eminem is internationally known, the biggest of the 21st century, and as soon as someone abroad hears Eminem, they remember Detroit. Now, whether you care about that or not is up to you, but your feelings won't change the fact you put your foot in your mouth this time.